Friends, I'm Mr. Dark Web, and today I'm going to tell you a story that will shatter one of the most enduring myths of our time. Did you know that casinos around the world make $450 billion every year? That's more than the GDP of most countries in the world. And do you know what this empire is built on? On one simple illusion, that the average person can beat the system. 3 months ago, I came across a forum where a certain user under the nickname MIT Genius was selling a secret blackjack strategy from the students of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which, by the way, I told you about in my not long ago video. You can see the video on my channel. Promised a 100% profit, thousands of customers, hundreds of rave reviews. I decided to investigate. Is there really people who can guarantee to beat the casino? What I found in internet archives, court documents, and public databases shocked even me. Behind every successful casino cheating story is a tragedy. Behind every genius who supposedly cracked the system, there is a person who lost everything. My name is Mr. Dark Web, and today I'm going to show you how the most sophisticated money-grubbing machine in the history of mankind works. A machine that doesn't just steal your money, it steals your ability to think rationally. It all started with one strange discovery in the archives of the Wayback Machine, a site that existed for just 3 weeks in the year 2017 and then disappeared without a trace. It contained a single article entitled, "Why I Will Never Enter a Casino Again." The author was a man who described himself as a former mathematician from Las Vegas. In the article, he wrote, "Friends, I worked at Bellagio Casino for 5 years. I was part of the team that developed algorithms for slot machines, and I want to tell you the truth which the industry hides. Randomness in casinos does not exist. Every spin, every card, every roll of the dice is calculated to make you lose. Not some of you, but all of you, without exception." The article ended with the cryptic phrase, "If you want to know the truth about how modern casinos work, search for document number Vegas Internal 2016 in the archives of the Nevada Gaming Commission." I spent a whole week looking for this document, and what I found made me realize everything we think about casinos is a lie. A beautiful, carefully constructed lie on which an industry worth almost $500 billion has been built. Do you want to know what is hidden in this document? Want to understand why even the smartest mathematicians in the world can't beat the system? Then get ready for a journey into a world where numbers lie and randomness exists only in the imagination of the players. Because what I discovered next changed my perception not only of casinos, but also of how the human mind can be manipulated. After a week of searching the archives of the Nevada Gaming Commission, I found the document that the mathematician from Bellagio Casino was talking about. The document turned out to be an internal report by the consulting company Gaming Analytics Inc. on the current state of mathematical threats in the gambling industry. 37 pages of dry statistics, graphs, and conclusions. But one section in particular stood out, analyzing the effectiveness of historical schemes in the current environment. And do you know what it said about the famous MIT team, which I already told you about in one of my previous investigations? I quote verbatim, "Card-counting schemes of the 1980s have zero efficiency in modern conditions. The technological solutions of the last 20 years completely exclude the possibility of gaining a mathematical advantage through traditional methods. Zero efficiency. Zero. Even those legendary dinosaurs who once took millions out of casinos could not make a cent today. But that was only the beginning of the shocking discoveries. In the same document, I found a section entitled Mathematical House Advantage, Real Numbers versus public claims. What was written there explained why $450 billion annually flowed from players' pockets into casino safes. Have you ever wondered why there are no windows or clocks in casinos? Why the air smells different? Why the sounds of the machines are so intrusive? The official version is to create atmosphere. The reality was much more sinister. The section on psychological techniques for maximizing playtime described techniques that were more like brainwashing techniques, special lighting that suppresses melatonin production, sound frequencies that stimulate the release of dopamine, scents that are discreetly sprayed through the ventilation system and influence decision-making. But the most shocking was the graph on page 23. It showed the correlation between the time spent in the casino and the money lost. The first hour, the player could even win. The second hour, suffer small losses. But after 4 hours, the curve went sharply downward. After 8 hours of play, 97% of the players would leave at a loss. 97%. Out of 1,000 people who spent a whole day in the casino, only 30 went home with a profit. And then I remembered about MIT Genius with its secret strategy for $300. Are there really people in the year 2025 who believe they can beat this system? I decided to investigate his offer further. I registered a fake account on that forum and wrote that I was ready to buy the scheme. The reply came 2 hours later. A link to a Telegram channel with 18,000 subscribers. The channel description featured a picture of a luxury yacht and the caption, "I make $200,000 a month on blackjack. I'll teach you." Below that were dozens of testimonials from satisfied clients with screenshots of the amounts they had allegedly won. But when I scrutinized these screenshots, I noticed an interesting detail. They were all taken at online casinos, but the MIT team worked exclusively with physical establishments. And do you know why? Because card counting is fundamentally impossible in online casinos. After each hand, the deck is shuffled algorithmically. There are no physical cards to count. There is only a random number generator that creates a new combination every millisecond. MIT Genius was selling a strategy for online blackjack. That's like selling an instruction manual for driving a unicorn. Technically impossible. But the scariest thing I found was in the comments to his posts. Hundreds of people wrote that they had bought the course and were trying out the strategy. Many complained about losses, but the guru explained this by a lack of experience and offered additional modules for a fee. Classic divorce scheme. First sell false hope for $300, then squeeze more money out of those who believed. And then it hit me. The problem is not that people don't know the maths of casinos. The problem is that the industry purposely creates the illusion of winning. Every jackpot, every commercial with a lucky player, every story about a lucky player, it's all part of a big cheating machine. But what exactly is behind the facade of the modern casino? What technology is used to ensure that every player loses? And why even the world's cleverest mathematicians don't stand a chance? The answers to these questions lay in the last part of Vegas' internal document 2016, in a section called, simply, Anatomy of the Modern Home Advantage. What I read there finally convinced me. A modern casino is not a place for gambling. It is a high-tech money-making machine where every detail is calculated with mathematical precision. The section, Anatomy of the Modern House Advantage, in the Vegas Internal Document, 2016, began with a simple statement. Every game in the modern casino is mathematically disadvantageous to the player, no exceptions. But what followed were numbers that gave me goosebumps. Slot machines, the most lucrative segment of casinos, are set to return 80 to 98% of the money placed to players. Sounds good, doesn't it? But here's the catch. These percentages are designed for millions of spins, and the average player makes from 100 to 1,000 spins per session. Imagine. The machine is set to return 95%, but the algorithm can safely swallow $10,000 in a row and then give a jackpot of $15,000. Mathematically, the casino returned 105%, but 99 out of 100 players left with nothing. The document gave an example of a particular Wheel of Fortune machine at the Bellagio Casino. In 24 hours, $2,300,000 passed through it. The players got back $2,087,000. The house advantage was 9.3%. But here's what was striking. Out of 1,200 players who played this machine in a day, only 43 people walked away with a profit. 43 out of 1,200. The rest lost money, and the casino was still in the plus $213,000 in one day from one machine. As I read on, I realized modern slot machines are not just random number generators. They are sophisticated psychological machines set up to maximize money-making. In the section Programming False Matches, the technology of almost winning was described. The machines are specially programmed to show winning combinations just above or below the center line. 3 sevens in a row, but one a line higher. 2 jackpots in a row, but the third symbol fell one position short. The player's brain perceives this as almost winning and demands to continue. Dopamine release occurs even when losing. The person literally enjoys losing money. The paper cited the results of neurobiological studies. MRI scans of the player's brain showed that the same areas activated during almost winning as during real winning. The pleasure zone lights up even when a person loses. But the creepiest thing I found was in the average length of playing sessions table. Beginners played an average of 40 minutes, experienced players 3 hours, and those who were called problem players in the document an average of 8 hours in a row. 8 hours. Imagine a man who presses a button for 8 hours straight, giving the machine his money, without a meal break, sometimes without even going to the loo. And casinos know this. Moreover, they deliberately create conditions for the formation of addiction. The environmental psychology section described the methods casinos use to manage player behavior. I've already mentioned the lack of clocks and windows, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Every 20 minutes, a mixture of scents is sprayed through the ventilation system to stimulate the area of the brain responsible for risk-taking. The temperature is kept at 21 degrees, which is the temperature at which people make the most impulsive decisions. The sound background is no accident either. The frequency of 440 Hz stimulates the production of serotonin. The player feels happy and relaxed even when he loses. The lighting is adjusted to suppress melatonin production. The person does not feel tired and can play significantly longer than under normal conditions. But technology goes even further. The same document mentioned a system codenamed Player Behavior Analysis System. Every player who uses a casino loyalty card goes into a database with a detailed analysis of his behavior. The system tracks how much time a player spends at each type of machine, what kind of bets he makes, what time he comes and goes, how he reacts to wins and losses. Even the speed of button pressing is analyzed. Based on this data, the algorithm predicts when a player is ready to spend more money and when he is going to leave, and adjusts the behavior of the machines accordingly. Ready to quit after a series of losses? The machine will give out a small winnings to get you hooked on continuing the game. Fascinated and playing for several hours, the system can arrange a series of almost wins to force you to increase your bets. The man does not even suspect that he is not playing against chance, but against a supercomputer that analyzes his every move and corrects the game in real time. And this applies not only to slot machines. Even honest games like roulette have their secrets. The paper referred to roulette defect detection technology. Modern roulette wheels are equipped with sensors that monitor each spin. If the system detects that some numbers are falling out more often than others due to physical defects in the wheel, the equipment is automatically replaced. Remember the story of Joseph Jagger, who in 1873 won a fortune by finding an unbalanced wheel in Monte Carlo? Modern technology eliminates this possibility completely, but the most horrifying discovery awaited me in the last part of the document. In the section called The Economics of Dependency, it said in black and white, 73% of the profits of modern casinos come from players with signs of addiction. The industry's strategy is not to entertain customers, but to create and maintain gambling addiction. 73%. Nearly 3/4 of all casino revenue is money from people who are sick, who have no control over their actions, who are ready to spend their last money, borrow from friends, take out a loan, just to keep on gambling. And it is these people that the entire modern casino industry is aimed at. Not those who want to have fun for a modest amount of money. It's those who are willing to lose everything. But how exactly does addiction form? What psychological hooks do casinos use to turn an ordinary person into a mindless, money-losing machine? And is there any way to protect yourself from these manipulations? The answers to these questions were even more shocking than anything I had learned before. The last pages of the document contained what the researchers called the cycle of capture, a step-by-step description of how an ordinary person turns into an addicted player. As I read this diagram, I realized this is no accident. This is a carefully planned psychological operation. Stage 1, the honey trap. The newcomer is given a win. Not immediately, not a lot, but enough to taste victory. Algorithms of modern casinos are specially set up so that new players in the first few sessions to stay in the plus, or at least in the zero. The document cited a statistic. 84% of newcomers win or keep their money on their first visit to the casino. But on the second visit, this percentage drops to 61%, on the third to 37%, and after the 10th visit in the plus remain only 11% of players. Stage 2, emotional swing. The system begins to alternate wins and losses in an unpredictable order. It is this unpredictability that creates drug addiction. The brain cannot calculate the regularity and demands to continue the game. Stage 3, escalation of bets. When a person is already hooked on emotional swings, the system starts pushing to increase bets. Small wins cease to bring the same pleasure. You need more risk, more adrenaline. Stage 4, the wagering trap, the most destructive. When a player loses a large amount of money, the brain switches on the must-win-back mode. Logic is completely switched off. A person is ready to bet everything just to get back what he lost. After reading this, I decided to find a real story of a person who went through all these stages. And after a few days of searching in the archives of forums on fighting game addiction, I found a post that turned my understanding of the problem upside down. The author signed himself simply as Sergey. The story he told was a living illustration of the capture cycle from the document. Started playing online slots out of curiosity, he wrote. A friend sent a link to a casino with a bonus for beginners. The first 2 days I even won. Raised a few $dozen. Classic first step. The honey trap worked perfectly. Then the swing started. I'd win 1,000 or lose 1,500, but the overall balance remained plus. I thought I understood the system, that I'd learnt to sense when the machine was ready to give money. Stage 2. Illusion of control and understanding of the system. After a month, small bets stopped giving me a thrill. I started betting 500, 1,000 per spin. When I won, the euphoria was unbelievable, but losing became painful. Third phase. Escalation of stakes. Further on, Sergei's story became more and more terrifying. He told me how he had started hiding his losses from his wife, how he took out loans and borrowed from friends, making up false excuses, how he gradually increased his bets, trying to recoup his previous losses. The worst part is that logic completely shuts down, he wrote. I realized I was losing, but my brain kept saying, one more bet and you'll win it back. That thought kept me on my toes. The fourth stage is in the clear, the wagering trap. But the creepiest part of his story concerned the final stage. In the end, I embezzled money from the charity organization's client and took money from my grandmother, justifying myself by saying, I'll pay it all back. Sergei lost his flat, got divorced, ruined his relationship with his father, but even after that he continued to play. Reading this story, I realized Sergei went through all the stages of the capture cycle with mathematical precision, but the scariest part was at the end of his post. You see, even now, after writing all this, I have the thought in my head, what if I try again? Maybe this time I'll get lucky. Even realizing the problem, even understanding the addiction mechanism, the brain kept demanding the game to continue. I decided to explore the scientific literature on gambling addiction and found a study by Dr. Anna Geldof from the University of Cambridge. In her paper, The Neurobiology of Pathological Gambling, the results of MRI brain scans of addicted gamblers were presented. People with gambling addiction had the same brain changes as drug addicts. The reward system was damaged. Ordinary pleasures, food, socializing, hobbies, were no longer pleasurable. Only gambling could trigger the release of dopamine. But unlike drugs, slot machines were legal and available 24 hours a day. Digging further into the archives, I found internal documents from a major online casino chain. There were instructions for customer service that made me cringe. When asking a player to block an account due to game control issues, suggest a cooling off period instead of a permanent lockout. Emphasize the temporary nature of the measure. Offer bonuses for returning after the cooling off period. The person asks for help, admits addiction, and the casino offers not a solution to the problem, but a temporary pause followed by a return. In the same documents were descriptions of player retention techniques. Create technical delays when attempting to withdraw a large amount. Offer exclusive bonuses to continue playing instead of withdrawing funds. Use personal managers to deal with VIP clients prone to big spending. The system was designed to make it easy for money to come in, but hard to come out. Every step was designed to make the player spend more and play longer. But the most interesting thing I found was in the profiling problem players section. Casinos not only knew about the existence of addicted customers, they actively identified and exploited them. The algorithms track signs of addictive behavior, playing at night, sharp increases in bets after losses, long sessions without breaks, attempts to win back after large losses, And instead of offering help, the system took such players under special control. They were offered personal bonuses, higher limits, invitations to exclusive tournaments, 73% of profits from sick people. Now I understood how this monstrous statistic was achieved, but the big question remained: if modern casinos are such perfect money-grubbing machines, what happens to those who do try to beat them? What happened to the followers of the MIT team? And do people still exist today who still believe they can beat the system? The answers to these questions led me to the darkest corners of the modern gambling industry. Remember MIT genius with his secret strategy for $300? Determined to see this investigation through to the end, I bought his course after all. What I got for my money finally convinced me. The modern casino training industry is a parasite that feeds on other people's illusions. The course turned out to be a collection of classic strategies that didn't work back in the days of the dinosaurs. Martingale strategy, doubling the bet after every loss. The genius promised that sooner or later the winnings would cover all losses. But he forgot to mention two nuances: table limits and bankroll size. After 7 losses in a row, the bet exceeds 128 times the original amount. If you bet $1, you have to bet 128. You bet 100 quid, you have to bet 13,000. And casinos limit the maximum bet just to protect against martingale. The Fibonacci system, betting on the famous sequence, ostensibly mathematically sound. In fact, it is the same as martingale, only slower, leading to ruin. The favorite number strategy is betting on the same number in roulette. MIT genius claimed that the law of large numbers guarantees a fallout. Bullshit. Each spin is independent of previous spins. A number may not even fall out 1,000 times in a row. But the most interesting was a section on bankroll management. The author advised to never bet more than 5% of the pot, but promise to double the capital in a month. Simple maths. To double your bankroll by betting a maximum of 5%, you need to win 20 games in a row. The probability of this happening at roulette is 1 in a million. Having studied dozens of such courses, both paid and free, I realized they all exploit the same psychological mechanism. People are willing to pay for the illusion of control over randomness, for the belief that there is a secret knowledge that will allow you to outwit mathematics. But then I came across something strange. On one closed forum for professional players, they discussed a certain Victor L. from Minsk, who allegedly systematically wins at online roulette for 2 years already. They gave screenshots, amounts, dates. Intrigued, I started digging and discovered an amazing story. Victor was indeed winning, but not through strategy or luck. He found a vulnerability in the random number generator of one of the casinos. The algorithm was not random enough. Under certain conditions, the sequence repeated itself. Victor wrote a program that predicted the results with 70% accuracy. In 8 months, he had won $137,000. It seemed that here he was, a man who had really beaten the system in the 21st century. But on the 17th of March, 2023, his account was blocked. Reason: software violation. All winnings canceled. Deposit forfeited. And a week later, the casino released an update that fixed a vulnerability in the generator. Victor's story became for me a symbol of modern reality. Even if you find a loophole in the system, the industry will close it instantly. Modern casinos are not the gambling houses of the 19th century. They are high-tech corporations with armies of programmers analysts, and security specialists. But the most frightening discovery awaited me at the end of the investigation. Studying the statistics of online casinos for the year 2024, I discovered the market is growing exponentially. Dozens of new platforms appear every month. Most of them are without licenses, without control, without tools to protect players. Unlike legal casinos, which at least formally care about players, illegal platforms work on the principle of squeeze the maximum and disappear. They purposefully hunt for addicted players, do not pay out large winnings, and disappear with clients' money. Worst of all, artificial intelligence is starting to change the rules of the game. Modern AI analyses each player's behavior in real time and adjusts algorithms to maximize losses. Whereas casinos used to rely on big number statistics, now they can personally adjust the luck of each client. Imagine, the algorithm knows that you are willing to spend a maximum of $5,000 per session. It will let you win $4,000 to give you a thrill, and then take all 5. Personalized ruin. And so, we can move on to the conclusions. My investigation has shown it is impossible to beat a modern casino. The MIT team worked in the unique environment of the 80s and 90s. Physical casinos, primitive security systems, imperfect algorithms. Today, every loophole is closed, every method is known and blocked automatically. All win-win strategies are mathematical rubbish. All training courses, a scam for money. All stories about successful players are either lies or temporary luck that ended in complete ruin. The modern casino is not a place of entertainment. It is an industrialized money-making machine that uses the latest advances in psychology, neurobiology, and artificial intelligence against the player. 73% of profits from sick people. This is not a gambling business. It is exploitation of human weaknesses on an industrial scale. Remember, the only way to win at a casino is not to gamble at all. And now, an interactive question for you viewers. Have you or your acquaintances faced with addiction? Have you tried win-win strategies? Tell your stories in the comments. Your experience may warn others from the same mistake. Sometimes an honest life story is more powerful than any statistics. And remember Sergey's words from my investigation: to recognize that getting even is not possible is an opportunity to not play at all. Gambling addiction, especially online gambling, is extremely dangerous to your financial situation and mental health. If you or a loved one is suffering from gambling addiction, seek professional help. As always, you're Mr. Dark Web. See you in the next issues.